Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Sheree Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is a space for women, feminine, and non-binary people who are Black, Indigenous, people of colour to explore their relationship with nature. Thank you. Hello and welcome back to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. And thank you for joining us again. This episode is coming out on June the 1st, 2023. And we've just had May, obviously, gotten that under our belts, but this year, man, it is flying by, and May did not come smoothly. It was definitely a testing month in so many ways. On a personal level, on a professional level, on a home level. Like, God, man, I want to say it kicked my butt. I am saying May kicked my butt. But hey, I'm here now, and I am living to tell the tale, so I'm grateful for that, definitely grateful for that, and I'm grateful for you to joining us again. And we have invited back Catherine Lucktaylor for a conversation. Catherine joined us in December 2020, the last episode of the first season of the podcast, and it was such a pleasure to have Catherine back again. She's such a warm, inspiring light, really, working in ceramics, and we might have touched upon that a little bit in this conversation because Catherine, and I was going to say lucky enough, but no, worked hard to get a Developing Your Creative Practice award from Arts Council England. So we touch upon that award, giving you as an artist that time and space to maybe research, develop a project, dive into something that you might have had an itch to explore, but maybe not the means. So get this award, get this grant from the Arts Council, and you can. So Catherine will go into detail about what she got up to with her project that was awarded some funding. It was just really good to listen to Catherine and how she is building from a foundation, a solid foundation that she has been working on, developing, healing, practicing within, basically. And it comes from that ancestral healing ballpark, really. And we talk about this because Catherine's training as an ancestral healing practitioner and what this means, and how it works in a sense, or how you have to be open maybe to listening to these signs or symbols or voices or feelings and sensations. Anyhow, this conversation just really feeds into the journey that I am on this year. As you know, we've had some solo episodes around me talking, yapping on about my healing journey. And this couldn't have come at a better time, this conversation with Catherine Lucktaylor, because it just feeds into everything that I've been thinking and feeling and practicing. And it just gives me more fuel to add on to that fire, that fire that was in my belly. That is like, I do deserve to heal. Everybody deserves to heal. And that path isn't linear, as I've talked about. It's spiraling, it's circling, but it's so worth the effort. And I know it's not going to be any end journey. It's a constant becoming whole, becoming free. Check out this episode. Listen to it, take stuff on board, and as always, leave comments, get in touch. Let's continue the conversation, because we always love to hear from you, good or bad. And make sure you listen to the end, because Catherine's got some offerings that should be coming out now. June, we're in June, rolling towards summer. I think we have one more conversation to come out before the summer break, and then we'll have a little rest, and then we'll come back in the fall, in the autumn, my season. But we're not there yet. Let's be in the present. Let's get into this conversation with Catherine Lucktaylor. Thanks for being here. Until next time, bye for now. Welcome back, Catherine, to the Earth Sea Love podcast. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Very much. So glad to have you back. And let's just remind our listeners where you're calling in from. Mm-hmm. And let's just remind them how nature is integral to who you be and what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hi Sheree. Yeah, I'm calling in from Cornwall, UK, but I'm right down the far west of Cornwall. So I live in a town called St. Just. It's the furthest west in England, the town that's the furthest west, and I'm not far from Land's End. So I'm surrounded by gorgeous turquoise seas, cliff tops, wild moors, standing stones, sacred spaces. It's just a very, very beautiful, wild part of the country. And that's really what speaks to my soul. Just being immersed in that nature. I can just walk out of my door. Even though I live in a town, I can just walk around the corner and I'm in a beautiful valley that goes down to the sea. And just being able to have that access and to nature, and kind of a particularly wild type of nature. It's very untamed and feels very primordial. Kind of like, it feels like it's been like that for centuries, which is very beautiful and special.
Thank you. Yeah, I did have the pleasure of being down your neck of the woods last year, June, for our residency, and I was totally taken by the landscape. I mean, I did travel all those miles for the landscape, and it didn't disappoint. It just felt like a totally different world to me.
Mm, mm.
With the colors, and I do appreciate that wildness. Are you getting into the sea? Am I right in thinking that you have been at some point into the sea?
Yeah, I'm not as hardy as you, Sheree. I don't, occasionally I'll go in the winter, but I haven't been at all this winter. But I'm kind of feeling the urge now. Like it's, the sun's been shining a bit, not today, but the sun's been shining a bit. And so I'm feeling that pull. So once I get in at the beginning of the year, so March, April time, once I kind of make that first foray into the sea, then I'll keep going for the rest of the summer into autumn. But yes, I'm not as hardy as some of my friends who are out at 7 a.m. swimming in the sea. I'm not that I'm not that dedicated.
Yeah. But it is right, though. It is once you start, like you say, at the whatever month is the beginning of your year for getting in the sea, you do have to keep doing it, or because it's just like starting over again if you miss too many days in between. And it is that climatization. And I don't know about you, but there's also a fear for me, and it's a mixture. I mean, and well, I don't know. Really, I say, oh yeah, I know what it's going to be like, but I don't know, because I do believe it's a case of like, the sea is never the same sea twice. No. So it's seas for me. Yes, I'm off to the seas.
Yes.
But it's that fear. It's like, okay, what's it going to be looking like? Is it going to be calm? Is it going to be storm? And how cold is it going to be?
Yes.
And how far out do I have to walk? And there's all these variables that do feed into and with that, I don't know, that primal fear, that gut fear. And it's a case of like, I know I'm doing it and I know it gives me so much benefit, but every time I go, there is that fear. And I think also there's that fear is also who's going to be there and who's going to see me. I think that feeds into it as well. Because no matter where I am, or if, I usually go to the same bay, I do still feel exposed in a sense. And it isn't until I've been in and come out do I feel I don't know, safe in my surroundings, thinking, yeah, I do belong. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think because often when it's like the nice weather, like the bay near me, it's at low tide, it has got a bit of a beach, so you can actually get down and into the sea, and it can be quite isolated, which is nice, but it's kind of, there's also a safe area because there's like a little, we call them mermaid pools, where they it's kind of very sort of like shallow-ish, so you can swim, but it's kind of protected by rocks, so you're not actually right out in the sea. So like that fear thing, for me, going somewhere like that feels really safe because I'm kind of protected by the rocks surrounding me, and there's only kind of one little way in that the sea's getting in. So for me, that's kind of how I combat my fear. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying about that feeling exposed, and sort of like you don't know what to expect, you don't know what you're going to encounter, people, but also sometimes there's loads of seaweed and you can't quite see what's going on, and that's so yeah, I think it's good to have a healthy respect for the sea. So I think that fear is actually a good thing, because it means you are going to be safe and you are going to take care, and you're not just going to be blasé and just swim out into the waves.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Some healthy respect for the sea. I read somewhere just recently, water licks back at itself to remember. Water licks back on itself to remember. So bearing this in mind, let's think about, because I'm not sure if we mentioned it in the last time that we talked for the podcast, but you had just received a Developing Your Creative Practice grant award from the Arts Council. So tell us what that entailed and how that fed into new bodies of work, in a sense, for you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, I work with clay, and I specialize in rakufi ceramics. which, you know, my business goes really well. I make beautiful pots that are inspired by the Cornish landscape. But I also have this other aspect of my practice, which is very personal, very close to me, and it's drawing on my ancestral heritage. So I'm half Ghanaian. So my mother's side of the family are white English, and my father was from Ghana in West Africa. And I was born and brought up in this country, but I've always felt drawn to, you know, my African heritage and bringing that through into my creative work. So getting the grant from the Arts Council was a perfect opportunity for me to spend a good amount of time. It's about 6 or 9 months that I could spend just really developing a new body of work. And what was really nice about that was I didn't know where it was going. I didn't have to know where it was going. I didn't have to have any necessary outcomes. I could just explore and see what happened, which was just an amazing opportunity. And I really made sure that I carved out that time just to have that process. One of the things I created as part of that, I was working on some sculptures, which many years ago I had this dream about these women who came to me in a dream, and I called them my mothers of the moon, my guardians, so my ancestors. And so I've been kind of like playing with the idea of, you know, having these guardians. They work with the moon and the water, and what you were saying about the memory of water, so bringing all that through into the work. So I'd done a painting of these women years and years ago, and I kept getting this nudge. Yeah, you need to make some sculptures of these. So that's what I did during my time that I had with the Arts Council grant. So I made 3 of these women who kind of are a bit like in the Celtic tradition of like maid and mother crone. They were kind of like sort of reflecting those different aspects of womanhood, but also they were very kind of serene, protective guardians. So that was kind of one aspect of the work. And the other aspect was, I think we did talk about on the last time I was on your podcast, was working with the Adinkra symbols. Yeah, so they originated in Ghana, and there's like hundreds of these symbols which are so beautiful, and they all have different meanings and are related to different proverbs or different wisdoms, which is like very ancient, but also they're kind of evolving. So they're very popular in Ghana, and you do see some around in the African diaspora, but they're not very well known. So it felt like important for me to kind of like bring through that knowledge and that wisdom. So I was working with the Adinkra symbols, and I also developed what I called Adinkra spirit stones, which are small stones. Well, they're made out of clay. I call them stones. They're made out of clay. So they're all hand carved with the symbols. And then I paint them with the glazes and I raku fire them. So raku is an ancient Japanese technique where you take pieces out of the kiln when they're red hot, plunge them into sawdust, and when you wash them you get these beautiful crackle and turquoise glazes, which I was using. So for me it was about the process of making them, that connection, the alchemical connection with the elements and bringing those all together, but also bringing through that ancient African wisdom as an energy in itself. So I was making all this work, didn't really know where it was heading. During that time as well, I'd begun creating and hosting grief rituals, which were inspired by work I'd done many years ago with a woman called Sabomfu Some, who originated from the Dagara tribe in Burkina Faso in West Africa. She has now passed, but I feel like her knowledge and her wisdom is still spreading out around the world. So I was hosting these grief rituals and using the Adinkra stones and the Adinkra symbols as part of those rituals, and just like powerful energy and drawing on my ancestors and working in a very spiritual way, but also bringing in that creativity. I'd made Udu drums, which are like clay drums, which again originated in West Africa, in Nigeria. So all these different elements became an installation in Newlands Art Gallery, which is, I love taking this work into spaces where you wouldn't normally access this sort of work. So beginning of last year, was it only? Yes, it was last year. I finished this body of work, and like I say, I didn't know where it was heading, where it was going to go, where I was going to show it. And then I had this opportunity to show in a group show called Captured Beauty, which was curated by Black Voices Cornwall, which was an organisation that set up the previous year after all the Black Lives Matter stuff that was going on in 2020, and after the death of George Floyd, and like, so all this conversation was happening around what it was like to be Black in a white society community. So, and especially living in Cornwall, because it's very white, but there are quite a lot of us here. There are a lot of Black people here, but you know, we're very spread out. So an organisation like Black Voices Cornwall kind of is a hub to kind of bring people together and, you know, share resources, share ideas, and just have that support, that network. So Abby Hutchinson worked with Newlands Art Gallery, which is part of their programme of events, which was using work that was in the Arts Council collection, working with local communities to curate an exhibition. So, and there was a few local Black British artists who were invited to exhibit as part of that. Unfortunately, I was one of them. So I had somewhere to take my work. So I created an installation in the gallery, which was very much like an altar space. It was connected to the ocean. Newlands Art Gallery is really close to the sea, so that it's already got that connection with the sea. And yeah, it was just a fantastic experience, and I had such an amazing response. And I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm just so excited to share.
Keep going. You're making it so easy for me. Keep going.
And so as part of that exhibition, I also hosted a grief ceremony for Black people to come and be. So it was very kind of like, it was very invitation only. It was a very safe space, and it wasn't so much in depth as the rituals I do, but it was like a beautiful ancestral healing ceremony. And we sat in the gallery space. We had the whole space to ourselves. Newlands Art Gallery were amazing at supporting that. You know, they provided us food and drink and the space, and you know, we had very low lighting, and I played my Udu drum and created this ritual space and gifted everyone with one of the Adinkra stones. And we also wrapped some beach pebbles that I'd used as part of my altar installation. We wrapped them, and we were giving praises to the ancestors and just kind of really acknowledging where we've come from. And then as part of that, we ceremonially went down to the sea, and I had this bowl of water, again, this water that I'd collected from the sea that was on the altar. And we were putting these stones into it as part of this healing ceremony. And we walked down to the sea, and then I ended up going into the sea a little way, pouring the stones into the sea as part of this blessing and releasing ceremony. And a seal came by and popped its head up. It was so magical.
Yeah.
It was absolutely, and also like a whole group of Black people just walking from Newlands Art Gallery to the sea, which, I mean, we did cause a bit of a stir, but it also was like, yeah, this is us, we're here. And we're connecting with the sea in the way we connect with the sea. And as a group, it was just beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
Oh my gosh, you're describing it and I get goosebumps. And it's goosebumps that, you know, on my arms, but then they're coming up here into into my cheeks and jaw.
Mm.
Do you know? It's like, oh yeah, and
Mm.
we both said magical at the same time. I mean, and what I remembered there was a case of when we were talking about going to the water and that, yeah, still doing it, giving us a moment of growth because we're stepping out of our comfort zones in a
Yeah.
sense to take up space and claim space.
Yeah.
And just what you've said there about capturing beauty in that installation, having that healing, ancestral healing gathering there for Black people, and then to leave there and go in a ceremonial procession towards that is claiming and taking up space. Just as you said, we are here, we belong here, and this is how we are choosing to access. No, this is how we're choosing to connect with ourselves, with each other, and with nature. And that's so beautiful.
Yes. Oh. Yeah, it is. It's so beautiful.
That is so rich what you described, that the bodies of work that you created. I mean, like the mothers of the moon, and how there is that connection of water, and then the Adinkra singles. And like, I've got one, and I think you pronounce it's Aya, and I say Aya or Aya, which is a fern. Yes, it means durability, resourcefulness, sturdiness. And what I was bringing today was Sankofa.
Yes.
Go back and get it. Go back and get it, which is usually symbolized with that bird with feet facing forward, but head turning backwards, and I might have an egg between the legs sometimes, like even maybe craning or get it. But it is that idea that we're in the present, but we also need to go back to the past and get what we need, what we've lost, what we've forgotten, in order to be here in the present, but basically also to go towards the future, to have those promises, to have those dreams.
Absolutely.
So is it Sankofa? It is Sankofa.
Yes, that's right.
So you've mentioned it. So like you've mentioned holding these ancestral healing ceremonies, gatherings. And when you say this, I envision you as maybe a conduit or a bridge, between the now and the past, and operating within this in-between space. Can you extend on what you mean by these ancestral healing practices? Because I know that you're training to be an ancestral healer practitioner. So what does all this mean? What does it mean?
Yes, that's a great question, Sheree. So for many years, like I say, I've kind of had my own connection with the ancestors, and exactly what you say about Sankofa and looking back in time and bringing forward what's useful for the present. So for me, it was very much like a bridge between the ancestors and that wisdom to bring forward. But also for me, I feel like I'm that bridge between cultures as well, because I have both cultures within me. So although I've had my own practice and my own ritual practice and my own ancestral healing practice, which I have been slowly bringing out and sharing with other people, as part of that journey, last year I discovered Daniel Four, who is teaching this method of ancestral lineage healing. And it just really, really spoke to me. I bought his book, Ancestral Medicine. The organization that he leads is called Ancestral Medicine. And they have all these different ritual practices. And the main one being this ancestral lineage healing. So I did the first course, which was about healing your we call it primary lineages, but it's just it's just to give you a structure to work with this healing practice. So you work with your mother's line, your mother's father's line, and your father's mother's line, and your father's father's line. So part of this, what I'm learning at the moment, which is so amazing and wonderful, is to how to guide other people to heal their ancestral lines and their ancestral lineages. The role of the practitioner is to create that ritual space for the client to then connect with their own ancestors. So the ancestors are doing the work, and you have to have a certain belief system. So if you can believe or just imagine that we do go on after death, there is a spirit, that we don't just disappear, that we are living, we're living, whether incarnate, we're alive and we're living, or we're not. So it's not actually, some people say to me, oh, are you talking to the dead? And it's not like that. It's not like mediumship. It is more like you as a person just connecting with your ancestors. We all have ancestors wherever culture we're from. So it's not culture specific. It's available and accessible to everyone. It just is about coming with a level of curiosity. And so I'm just really, really enjoying the process and meeting some amazing people. We've been learning the different steps in how to guide this work, and also work in a ritually safe way, how to deal with any issues that might come up, any troubles that might be there. And what is so beautiful about this work is yes, there might be troubles in your past, in your ancestral lineage, but that's not what we're focusing on. We're focused on the healing and the blessings that are coming through. And it's just such a beautiful, beautiful process. I mean, I can't wait till I'm actually, not in a few weeks' time, I will actually be ready to start working with the public. And I'm just really excited to share this work because it's so beautiful. And for me, it's really helped with, I've lost a lot of people in my life, hence why I was doing the grief rituals. My mother passed over 20 years ago. My son's father died actually 5 years ago yesterday. My grandparents are all gone. My father passed last year. So, I've had a lot of loss in my life. But what this has done for me is just really know that when people pass, that they're okay, that they're okay. And part of this process is like healing and ancestralizing them. So whatever has happened in life, that they can become more. They can heal, even in death, they can heal. And that is just such a beautiful, beautiful process.
This is landing with me on so many different parts of my body. Here I am itching my head, right? And because it's that prickling. It's like not just the goosebumps now. There's a prickling because it resonates with me, and it's also, I don't know if there's if I'm putting a shield up or if I'm making it more difficult than it should be. Because I hear you that, okay, you've started this training to become a practitioner. And the first level, if I'm hearing it right, is that you're working with your own 4 pillars of your ancestry.
Yes.
So here I'm thinking that you have to heal or be in a process of healing yourself before you can hold space to support others for others to heal. So that is great, smashing lovely, because that's where I'm at. I've been doing all this these solo episodes of the podcast for 2023 so far, which has been about my own healing journey and how I'm intentionally actively stepping into it so I can heal myself, so I'm there showing up better for others. So I hear that, right? I get that. And then the next step here is like you're saying is you're offering, you're going to start offering these spaces, these rituals, this there's time and space for others to step in and start healing by listening. And I'm thinking it is listening to those ancestral, and I don't know if they're voices or presence. So is that what it is? Because is it that you are listening and it's whatever is coming through is either that message or that and it might not be, it's not words, or it could be feelings, it could be just signals, messages that way, and like, okay, everything's good, or I'm at peace. Do you know, is this how it is?
Yeah. Yeah, you described it perfectly, Sheree. Yes. So there is that element of like self-healing. I'm healing at the moment, healing my 4 lineages. So I am ready and able to work with my ancestors to help you to heal and connect with your ancestors. And yes, it is about listening. And like you say, different people experience it in different ways. So it is partly like connecting with your intuition, also just letting go of any judgments of what's coming through, letting go of any doubts, and just allowing to what you're feeling or experiencing to come through, and just kind of just being in that state. It's almost like being in a deep meditative state. And yeah, different people experience it very, very differently. So, you might hear voices, you might see something, you might have impressions, you might feel it in your body. So everyone has their own way of connecting and feeling. And one of the things that is just so beautiful about the practice is, as a practitioner, you get to be with your client and their people, which is so beautiful. So the more that while the client is in that space, they can share verbally with you, and as a practitioner, we then make notes. So the client afterwards can remember, because sometimes you just can't really remember what's happened when you're in that deep meditation. So it's really, really beautiful to be able to then give the client those words and those messages from the ancestors. And what is incredible is, even as a practitioner, you kind of think, is this real? Is this really happening? Am I imagining it? Am I making it up? And then something will happen in your everyday life, and it's like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's real.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is like, it's tapping into so many different things here. For me, what you just said, I mean, and I'm not going to put that label of therapy on it, but just when you're saying that you're with your client and they're with their ancestors, and then you're taking notes to feed back to them, it is, but then, therapy is supposed to be there for healing, is it not? But what I was reading this article, because I've got to write this article around Black motherhood, right? And about conjuring, and this was about conjuring the ghost, or a call and response to hates. Hates as in HAINTS, which is around the lines. It's from like Southern America, like the deep South of America, and it's a way of a particular haunting presence, and they say it's a female, and I'll add more details in the show notes. But what was coming up and what I'm hearing here is, we're like, my word of the year is listen. What I'm hearing is about, and I'm going to use haunted, but I'm not saying it's ghostly or anything, being haunted, and also haunting, in the sense of like, these are my ancestors I'm listening to, or sensing, or getting signals from, but then also it's me also. Do you know, in the sense of like, so it's a case of like, we're saying this is the ancestors coming through to us, but it at the same time, it's me. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a case of like, there's like, I can't make that distinction or that division between, is like, who is saying this, because all the time it's my it's my thoughts, it's my feelings, it's my sensations. Do you know what I mean? That's okay, because it's my ancestors are within me. They might have passed, but they're still with me. And that can be through these messages, or it can be that connection through the DNA, or it can be me embodying them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's sort of like, so this for me is also bringing in that issue of time. And we've talked about time already, but it's that idea. Now, I wrote something down about time. The present is a dream of the future. The future is an opening to the past in the need to remember. I see working with the ancestors is because we've had this disconnection from ourselves, from the community, from nature, from our ancestors. And this process that we're going through, this healing process, is to remember what we've forgotten. And because of that, we're doing it in the present to have that dream of the future, and the future is having to go back into the past. It's almost, it's this circular and also spiraling of time. And I think that's so beautiful. And it is difficult in a sense to get head round, to talk about, to theorize, but at the same time I think it's so simple, because all we have to do is be. Is that be? Am I making sense here?
Yes.
So what is your relation with time? Because I've just said about your ancestors, but do you also see yourself as an ancestor for yourself and for the future, for others?
Yeah. I love this question. Time, it is like you say, it's really hard to get your head around, and it isn't actually linear. It's like you say, it can be spiral, and but about being in the now. And I think that is the key, isn't it? Being in the now. But yes, I do see myself as an ancestor, and I do think about what legacy I am leaving for my child and my family, and for the world. And I think one of the things that is so beautiful about this practice is that if you or I then heal my ancestral lineages, then I become the face of the lineage. And you've got all that power, beauty, wisdom behind you, and then you can bring that out to the future, and to the future of your family and the people around you and the people you connect with. And it is just such an incredible, empowering and healing position to be in. And it's I'm here, I can stand strong, I can feel rooted, because I know that I've got all this lineage behind me.
And that is being on that healing journey. To be able to stand and be rooted where you are, you have to have been on that path, work through some shit, and accepted yourself, the good, the bad, the whole self, that wholeness. And that's beautiful. And that's beautiful. And that's beautiful to hear, but also to witness, to see within you, and there's something there about spirit work and the light that you bring and shine for others. So
thank you.
That's beautiful. Okay, so we're coming to the end here. It's woo, but not really, because it's continuing. But so you said that in a couple of weeks, I'm just thinking, you're saying in a couple of weeks you're going to be offering this to clients, you're saying. And what is this? Because you couldn't, this is it now, you could be putting out your sale pitch, out your stall. What is it that you're going to be offering that people can tap into?
As a practitioner in training, I'm going to be offering sessions. So I will have something up on my website. It's just going to be a part of my website, Lucktaylor ceramics.co.uk. So obviously I've got my ceramic practice, but also I've got this ancestral healing practice. So I will depending on when I'm going to start, I'm not quite sure yet. I'm just going in the time that it takes. Ancestors are always saying slow down, so I'm slowing down. Not in my nature, I tell you, Sheree.
But no, I am so pleased you've said that, because my practice for the last few years has been slow, but I'm good. I'm thinking, where am I getting these messages from? Where am I getting this inclination? Because we're not getting it from outside, are we? Outside society is go, 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 rush, rush, rush. So I'm glad it's the message I'm receiving from my ancestors, and I'm listening. Okay. So yes, so you're going at your own pace.
Yeah, so I will there will be a wait list, or there will be the opportunity to book a session. What I'm planning on doing is just offering, like, you know, a free kind of session, like 20-minute just chat, just to see if we're a good fit, if it's the right thing for you at this time, and then we can go ahead and start working together. So if you are interested, any of your listeners, then yeah, I'd love to work with you. I mean, I can see this work developing. So as well as offering the ancestral healing sessions, I am going to be developing work that is working with my creativity and the ancestral healing. So this is all kind of developing. It's all kind of under the surface at the moment. So I'm really excited to see where that goes. Mm-hmm. And I am planning on next year running another retreat, which will be focused on the ancestral healing and creativity. So that's kind of something that's coming in the future. But in the meantime, I will be offering the ancestral lineage healing. So very excited.
That is exciting. And this episode's due to come out in May.
Oh, perfect.
So if we're saying now, we're going to put your details in the show notes, and it was a great way to keep up to date of when this is offering or how it's developing is your newsletter. Yeah, you're going to be putting that in your newsletter, because I'm glad that you mentioned that creativity, because for me to come back and do a full circle, it was a case of like, so ancestral healing training feeding back into your creativity. And what are you finding that's coming to fruition? What's bubbling in terms of what you're turning your hands to? And also, I'm sure the last time that we met was that you had set up a collective community space for arts for younger people. Is that, the youth of your area, is that something that is still happening, or is it developed?
Yeah, I've got so many things going on, Sheree, so I'll try and keep it brief.
Don't worry about it. Good, the dialogue, the conversation helps you work through it as well.
So I've got like different aspects of also what I do that is kind of like community based. So I work with a group called Coetha, which is a support group in Cornwall for families who are visible by colour. And we're actually in the process of applying for some funding to do some more work with the young people, because they come to me sometimes to work with clay. And what I always find is those spaces then become something more than just working with clay. It's about the connection. It's about being around other people who look like you, and especially like for younger people, and particularly once they get into like the secondary teenage years, it can be very isolating. So to be able to have the opportunity to bring people together, and like when you're working with your hands, you can have conversations you might not normally. So it is just like so I'm really hoping that will become something that I'm going to be offering. So that's something we're applying for funding. I'm also a director of Kesselberry CIC, which is a community interest company that myself and some friends set up at the end of last year. And we've had lots of funding to work with young people. So setting up youth clubs in Penzance and Newlands. So I'm not directly involved with running those, but I'm one of the directors of the organisation. And that has just been really, really incredible and supportive for young people who are out on the streets, don't have anywhere to go, just in the evenings, they don't want to be at home and they want to be out with their mates, and they're just hanging around, causing trouble and getting into trouble. So this is a warm space for them, safe space for them to go, and could also support people who maybe have difficulties or troubles, and they can be signposted to different organisations. So we're a bit of like a hub in that sense for the young people of the area. And also we're putting in funding for lots of projects in the future. So being able to, one of the things which is really exciting at the moment that we're just waiting to hear if we've got the money, is to offer like taster sessions of lots of different interesting activities for the young people, and then they get a bursary to continue that. So they might get a bursary to go and surfing or skateboarding or cookery or pottery or whatever, all these different things we've got to offer, DJ skills, and so it's very exciting. And just to be able to offer young people who wouldn't have access to that, who wouldn't have the money or the resources to be able to do these activities, it feels so wonderful to be able to do that and be in a position where we can do that. And as part of that organisation and Kesselberry CIC, we're also working more kind of like therapeutically with people. Like, I'm hoping that in the future we'll get funding to be able to offer more of like the healing modalities, and just working, Currently, I work one-to-one as a creative mentor for a young person who comes to my studio, and it's just about supporting him to build confidence to then go on to art college or, see where his creativity needs to go. And I love working in that way. It's just so wonderful to see someone's creativity blossom. That's what I love. I love it.
Yeah, totally get that. And again, that just shows that you are a bridge and conduit there. It's like, you're working with the ancestors, are you, in the past, but then also you're working with the youth, the promise of the future. So I just love that, and again, how you're connecting all that spiral of time together. So thank you for that. And please share those organization links, and I'll put them in the show notes as well, so they become on other people's radar as well and they can check it out. But thank you so much for your time. You've been so generous of spirit on what you've shared here, and you've just made my job so easy, because you're so enthusiastic, so embedded in what you're doing. It as part of it's saying what you're doing, but it's part of your being. It's your whole being that you're bringing to it. And I so appreciate that and admire it and be inspired by it. So thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheree. It's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you. I'm so glad to have this opportunity. And you know what? It's really kind of reinvigorated me when talking to you. It's like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm going to carry on doing this.
Yes,
I really appreciate it.
No, it's you that's doing it, and it's just having this opportunity to reflect it back on yourself and to realize and see it and let it sink in. It's like you are doing it. So so thank you so much.
Thanks, Sheree. It's been absolutely brilliant to talk to you.